A significant diplomatic shift is poised to take place at the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. A coalition of influential Western nations has announced its intention to formally recognize Palestine as a sovereign state. This coordinated move, scheduled to coincide with the gathering of world leaders in New York starting September 22nd, represents a departure from decades of established foreign policy for many of the countries involved. The plan follows a UN General Assembly resolution that endorsed the New York Declaration, a framework committing the international community to tangible, time-bound, and irreversible steps toward a two-state solution. This declaration, passed with 142 votes in favor, signaled a growing global consensus to advance the cause of Palestinian statehood through direct action. The group of nations spearheading this initiative includes key European and Commonwealth countries: France, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Luxembourg, Malta. This is not a blanket, unconditional promise, however. Several governments have attached specific prerequisites to their declarations, linking them directly to the situation on the ground in Gaza and the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict. These conditions aim to ensure that recognition is not merely a symbolic gesture, but a step toward a sustainable and peaceful resolution, addressing the core security and political issues that have long fueled the conflict and prevented a lasting settlement between the two sides. Among the most prominent conditions is the demand for a change in Palestinian governance. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney has stated that recognition is contingent on the Palestinian Authority holding elections in 2026, with the explicit exclusion of Hamas from participating. Similarly, French President Emmanuel Macron has outlined a comprehensive set of requirements. The international push for Palestinian statehood is unfolding against the backdrop of a catastrophic humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. The conflict that began in late 2023 has resulted in staggering loss of life and widespread devastation. According to the Gaza Ministry of Health, the death toll has exceeded 44,000 people. However, independent analysis suggests the true figure may be significantly higher. A peer-reviewed study published in The Lancet estimated as many as 64,260 died from traumatic injuries between October 2023 and June 2024. Disturbingly, the analysis found the majority of these casualties, about 59.1%, were women, children, the elderly. This highlights the devastating impact on the civilian population. Compounding the violence is a severe and deepening food crisis, exacerbated by a stringent blockade on aid. As of September 2025, Israeli restrictions reportedly denied entry to 83% of food aid bound for Gaza. The consequences have been dire, many surviving on just one meal every other day. The situation has been especially acute in northern Gaza. After an Israeli military order in October 2023 for northern Gaza to evacuate, all aid to the area was completely blocked, leading observers to warn famine was an imminent reality for those who remained. Infrastructure has been decimated: hospitals, schools, residential buildings. A landscape of ruin makes any return to normalcy distant. These dire conditions, the immense death toll, the looming famine, and near total destruction of civilian infrastructure have driven new diplomatic momentum. The wave of planned recognitions in September 2025 carries significant diplomatic weight, but its immediate practical impact on the ground in Gaza will be limited. Experts note the move is largely symbolic. It does not, in itself, create a state. The actual establishment of a sovereign and functioning Palestinian state can only be achieved through direct negotiations between the Israeli government and the Palestinian Authority. Recognition does not alter the reality of the Israeli occupation. It will not dismantle checkpoints. It will not lift the blockade on Gaza. For the average person living in Gaza, the daily struggle for food, safety, and freedom of movement will not change overnight. However, the symbolic power of this moment should not be underestimated. When major global powers like France, the United Kingdom, and Canada take such a step, it creates what some observers have called the sense of a dam breaking. This coordinated action is expected to encourage other nations to follow suit and build irreversible international momentum. This diplomatic shift grants the Palestinian Authority greater standing on the world stage, potentially opening doors to international legal bodies and strengthening its hand in any future negotiations with Israel. Israel has voiced strong opposition to the recognition plan, and the United States has also opposed the plan. The Israeli government dismissed the UN resolution that preceded this move as political theater, arguing that unilateral recognition rewards Hamas's monstrous terrorism. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been unequivocal, declaring there will be no Palestinian state. Israeli officials contend there is currently no Palestinian partner for peace, and they say such recognition undermines efforts to secure the release of approximately 50 hostages still held in Gaza. Looking beyond September 2025, the recognition of Palestine by a new bloc of Western nations will fundamentally alter the diplomatic landscape, even if it does not immediately change conditions in Gaza. The most significant potential change is the increased pressure on Israel to engage in meaningful negotiations toward a two-state solution. With more of its traditional allies and trading partners officially recognizing Palestine, Israel may find itself in a less tenable diplomatic position. This could create new incentives for a future Israeli government to re-engage with the Palestinian Authority, as the alternative would be deepening international isolation. The recognition could also empower moderate Palestinian voices and strengthen the Palestinian Authority's legitimacy as it seeks to govern. However, formidable challenges will remain. The deep divisions within Palestinian politics, particularly between the Fatah-led Palestinian Authority and Hamas, present a major obstacle to creating a unified and viable state. The conditions set by countries like Canada and France, demanding the exclusion of Hamas and the demilitarization of Gaza, will be incredibly difficult to implement. Hamas remains a potent force with significant popular support in some quarters, and its removal from the political landscape is not a simple task. Furthermore, the physical and political separation between the West Bank and Gaza continues to complicate any vision of a contiguous and functional Palestinian state. The security situation will continue to be a primary concern. For Israel, the core issue remains ensuring that a future Palestinian state does not become a launchpad for attacks. The memory of the October 2023 assault and the continued holding of hostages by militants in Gaza reinforce Israeli skepticism about Palestinian intentions and capabilities to maintain security. Ultimately, the events of September 2025 are best seen as the beginning of a new chapter, not the end of the story. The path forward will be fraught with the same problems that have long plagued the region, but it will now be navigated within a new diplomatic context, where the question is no longer if there will be a Palestinian state, but how it will come into being.